Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Off Axis podcast. I'm here with my good friend Chris M_arts on Instagram. Chris, how you doing today?
Doing good, man. Doing good. It's nice outside. Can't complain. It's raining in LA, so
Yeah, it is nice weather today. It's been like super windy lately, like so windy that I'm always looking outside to see if my tramp wall blew over. And today it's like finally nice weather to where I can actually like go hang up some clothes and not have them blow away and stuff.
Yeah.
But still under quarantine, still stuck in our house.
It's day 11, I think. Day 11 of quarantine.
Is it 11 already?
I think it's been 10 days.
Something crazy like that.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice. It's like being on vacation.
Should we do a COVID-19 update?
Yeah.
Okay. Where are we at right now? U.S. has, let's see, we've got 81,943 cases.
Oh.
Yeah. Deaths, let's see where we're at. We're at 1,177 deaths in the U.S. so far. China has 81,285 cases right now. They've got 3,287 deaths. Italy's catching up. Oh no, Italy's surpassed them. They have 80,000 cases and they have 8,215 deaths.
Wow.
8,000 deaths, bro.
That's a lot of deaths, and they're such a small country.
Wow.
That is crazy.
Spain is getting right there too. They've got 56,347 cases, and then they've got 4,154 deaths. Jeez. And
Wow.
then no one's really talking about Iran either. Iran's got 29,400 cases, and they've got 2,200 deaths. That's crazy right there. This is like one of those things that I don't want U.S. to be number one in.
Yeah.
I'm
let's
I'm
stay
totally
down
okay
there.
with that. Let's just chill.
Yeah, let's chill at number.
But one thing that they're
last
not
place.
talking about is the recoveries. So China has 81,285 cases right now, but they've also had 74,000 total recovered. So I think that's another thing that they're not really putting in the media is like the recovery. I think that we just kept hearing about the cases. We keep hearing about the deaths, but we're not really hearing about the recovery rate, which is like really important for us to know, for the population to really understand is that you can beat this. Like just because you have it doesn't mean you're going to die. I feel like everyone's like freaking out, Like, there are certain cases in which someone's immunity system is just like full blown.
Yeah. Most people do pass and nothing really happens to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the COVID-19 update as of...
What's today, the 27th?
Today's the 26th, Thursday.
March 26th.
And that's
Wonder how long we're going to be under quarantine for.
I don't know. LA is getting crazy. I know that I went back yesterday. A friend of mine said that he got pulled over around 9 p.m. and was ticketed $400 because the cops deemed it non-essential for him being out because nothing is open in my area in San Gabriel. Nothing is open. So I went to go get a burger at Carl's Jr. late and like it was closed.
Damn.
So they said, and it's kind of, so that's kind of crazy right there. I was driving by outside of Victorville, saw some interesting military activity. So that was interesting.
Yeah, lots of tanks. You sent me a video of that.
And then let's see what's happening. A friend of mine, he's a doctor at a hospital downtown, and he was given a couple of days ago papers to be able to show any barriers or stuff that's going to be roadblocks by the military or whenever it comes. So I thought that was kind of crazy that they're giving staff papers to be able to show just to be able to travel. So I'm like, man, something's coming.
Yeah. That is crazy. It's getting pretty hectic.
Yep.
And I would have said some crazy conspiracy stuff, but I talked to my friend Freddie the other day, who is a nurse here in Vegas, and he confirmed that it is pretty severe, and there is like a fully packed hospital and not enough people to take care of all of the new cases and stuff coming in. Shout out Freddie. So up until he said that, I was kind of taking it like as it wasn't that serious and it was kind of just being overblown, but no. Seems like it's pretty severe, and everyone should probably stay home because really
Yeah.
That's the only thing to do. And I think everyone's been doing a really good job. Like, you go everywhere and people are staying 6 feet away from each other.
I agree.
And, like, this is a whole worldwide pandemic. It's not just us. So everyone's doing it. It's kind of like, I guess if everyone does it for a few weeks, it'll actually go away.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly.
Yeah. Because I feel like Italy didn't take that as serious. And I think that that's the reason why we're taking it a lot more serious than other countries, is we saw just how quick that they surpassed some of the other countries in overall cases and deaths and so quickly.
Yeah.
And I think it is a good thing. I think it is annoying a little bit that, that certain things are closed, but for the overall greater good, I think it's good. I think that I think it's okay.
Yeah.
I don't mind it a little bit.
All right, on to some new topics.
All right.
One of the main reasons I wanted to have you on is because you do a lot of photography and video.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of people out here that watch my channel hopefully inspire to one day have a YouTube channel or do some kind of videography. So first question I would want to ask you, because I am definitely no camera expert. I'm actually like pretty camera retarded. If you were a beginning YouTube person, what's the best entry-level camera you could get for video that's going to cover most of your bases, that's not going to break your budget?
Are we talking about new or used? Because there's a total difference there.
New or used?
I think if somebody's
I would say used, actually, because if you're just starting out, you don't want to spend very much money because you
Yeah.
want to test the waters, because YouTube is a lot of work. And a lot of people like think, oh, I want to have a YouTube channel. And then
Yeah.
you edit a few videos and you're like, this is not going to happen. And
Yeah.
people think like, oh, I'm going to make all this money.
It takes
Dude,
a while.
I didn't make a single dollar off YouTube until about 3 years after I started, and I had like 500 videos up. So
Well, I would start out, let's see here.
first, which brand would you go?
So if we're just talking about podcasts specifically, then you kind of can get anything because you're not restricted to having to shoot 60 frames per second. You're not really having to shoot 4K, and certain things, maybe 4K, because if you're going to crop, and you have multiple people and you're going to crop each person and make it look like it's its own cut, then maybe that. But for the most part,
That's a lot of work.
that is a lot of work. But for the most part, you don't really need all that. So I would say, for video, I like to go with Sony.
Sony.
Sony's very responsive. Their auto tracking is really quick, and I just see it to be a lot more responsive on that level. Photos is a different category, is a total different circumstance. But you can get the Sony Alphas. I mean, you don't need to get an A7 and all that stuff. Really, you can start off when you're just starting out with something like an A6000, A6300. I have a lot of different bodies that I use. And predominantly, I actually use the 6300 a lot. I've had it for a couple of years. I had it since it came out. Super quick and super responsive. Let's see, right now, I think you can get them on there for, new, we're looking at $500. And so you could probably get a used one for $350, something like that. Nothing crazy. And the 6300 actually does shoot 4K. It's actually compressed 6K, so it does really well. It shoots 1080. It shoots 120 frames if you needed to go that fast route, if you're shooting export, like any sort of like action sports or anything like that. But honestly, I would recommend that, and I have recommended that to a lot of friends because it's inexpensive and it has a lot of other features that I really like about it, like the digital viewfinder is really nice. But that's not really about podcasting, I would say. That's more like outdoor, like actually shooting. So like for podcasting, let's just start there. So for podcasting, I think something like that would be really nice. However, it doesn't have the reversible screen. So like the camera that you're shooting with right now has a reversible screen.
Yeah, GH5.
So you can see that. The 63 has a flip screen, but it doesn't turn around, so you can't really see. So it's not really good on that element.
Yeah.
But overall responsive, super cheap, pays itself off really quick. You can shoot anything. I mean, I've shot everything with the 6300. I've shot action sports. I've shot weddings. I've shot portraits. I've shot videos. I've shot commercial grade. I've shot all kinds of stuff on that. And it's a little guy, man. It's perfect too. And it's what I really like about it is how powerful it is, but how small it can get so that way you can really sneak it into places. Like I've
That's
snuck
true.
it into festivals. I've snuck it into like little bars and like little things that I needed to have. So it looks like a small basic point and shoot camera that, you know, people were like, oh yeah, you can bring that in. It's not that big of a deal.
And which camera is this again?
It's the Sony A6300.
Sony
There's a
A6300.
6500 out now.
Yeah.
Those are, let's see where those are at. But that's the one I recommend just if you're getting started, because you can get one pretty cheap used. And then for new, I think they're like $500, $600
Yeah.
versus going.
So just my pick, I would say a GH4, just because I know a lot of people out there kind of want to take selfies and they want to like film themselves. It's super cheap. Like you could get a used one for like $200 probably.
There you go.
Maybe a little bit more expensive. I just think Panasonic is really good with the video stuff. There's a lot of good features. I have the GH5, so slightly better than that one. But for like anything you would ever need, you could flip around the screen so you could look at yourself. It covers mostly everything. The only thing I don't like about Sony's is they're so small.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one thing. Like it's kind of weird to me when the lens is like twice as big as the camera.
Right. I have a cage around mine to give it that.
Yeah.
But that was another thing I was going to say. The 6300 is really good by itself, but with the kit lens that it comes with, it's a pancake lens that is a 16 to 50 millimeter. It has IS built into it, which is image stabilizer. It also has a motor for zooming in, so you can actually be filming and zoom up, and it actually zooms in. And does
That's
like
nice.
A really nice. It's extremely nice, and it's compact. Like I said, that even with that and its body, it still looks really small. So you can put it in, so you can like take it into like arenas and things like that where people like. But 50 millimeters, I mean, it shoots at 5.6 when you're, but the ISO on it is ridiculous, so you don't even really matter. But that paired with the body is, I think, the perfect combo because it's so light. But yeah, like you said, when you're adding, I shoot all L series outside of that, so a lot of them are heavy. My go-to is a 24 to 70, the 2.8. And with that on there, it does kind of look dorky.
Yeah.
So but I have like a really boss cage around mine. And it, I think it was like $125 for the case, but it allows me to have extra threads too, to attach, mics, lights, extra features like that I always use on the go. And it's very versatile.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the only reason that I didn't get a Sony was because most of them don't have the flip around screen, which is really crucial for me for pretty much solo shooting on YouTube. And like right now, I wouldn't be able to see if my camera's still recording without buying like an extra screen or something.
But that's what I was going to say about the Sony too.
Yeah.
The Sony makes it really easy to just connect to your phone, and you can just run. Like I could be running it right here while the phone that's over there, and I can see the screen just run like this, just running it, which is what I really like.
Yeah.
No cords, nothing attached. You just download the app and you just sync it up, and you can just like do secondary monitoring from that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think you might be able to do that with my camera too.
Yeah. Certain cameras, like I said, nowadays technology has gotten so great and has caught up with everything.
Everything in Bluetooth.
And yeah, so like you can really like just get good technology now for super cheap.
Yeah. I mean, you pretty much can do everything on an iPhone if you need to.
Yeah, really, you can.
Yeah.
And now they've got color grading apps that you can just sync up all your iPhones or any Apple device really, and you have the same color grade.
Yep. That's a huge factor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, on to the next subject. Chop, chop. I'm going to say, how long...
By the way, currently as of today, if you go on my Instagram and you go through my feed, everything on there is shot with the 6300.
Yeah.
So if anybody is on there, like, wondering the type of quality, go to my Instagram and check it out. Everything on there is like...
Chris M_arts.
All shot with the Sony A6300. Multiple lenses on there, so that I have a lot of the kit lens. My three lenses are the kit lens, which is the 16 to 50 that it comes with. The Nifty 50, which is a 1.8 that I shoot with. Then it's a 50 millimeter prime lens, 1.8. It's about $125 brand new. And then my secondary is a 24 to 70, which is the L series lens. And those are my go-tos. So everything on that you see on my Instagram is going to be shot with those three glasses. But the body is a 6300. Next question.
Sweet. So how long have you been doing photography and what got you into it?
Ooh, this is a really good topic. I would say that I've been doing really predominantly art since August of 2010. Kind of went through a really bad breakup in August 2010, and I was extremely sad, and just like my emotions were everywhere, and my brain was chaotic, and I was like, geez, what am I doing in my life?
That happens.
Absolutely. And so what I chose to do was, I was like, you know what, if I'm going to be sad, at least I'm going to learn something. I said 6 months, 7 months is going to pass. I can either like lay in my bed and eat ice cream and watch shitty reality TV, which I still did.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
and not do. I still, that's like my thing. I still do that to this day. But I could either do that and just cry and not do anything, or I could also learn something. And then in 7 months has passed, and I also now have a craft. So I bought a camera, and so I started in around October to really tune in. And so what I did is I bought a Canon 5D. That was when the Mark I Classic came out. And I just started learning to shoot photos, and it also enabled me to kind of get out and branch out of my comfort zone and start to meet new people. It was the first time, because in my first relationship, I was kind of like, it was kind of like a me and her type thing, and like nobody else. And that's okay to a certain point. And I just didn't have a lot of external friends. I didn't really have that. And so I didn't also have a large group amount of friends. So this really brought me out of my element. And so I, started getting on Facebook. I started like, hey, anybody want to take photos? I need to practice. And then I had a couple of people, and started from there. And I started with a couple of things. It was just kind of going out, just learning the camera and the lens that I had for itself, or in itself, learning what all the tools were, because I didn't really know what it was. And so I started with how to get proper exposure.
Yeah.
And there's two types of exposures. It can be outdoor and indoor. So I was doing a lot of indoor stuff at that moment, because I had a pretty cool looking house, and people were coming over. So I was like, how do I make sure that this is like properly exposed? And one of the things that I started out with was just learning the ISO. So for my first couple of people, I was like, hey, come hang out. I'm trying to learn some stuff on my camera. And I had a couple of girls come over, and we just practiced, and I just kind of shot some basic photos. The first ones were like, they were shit, you know, that's the name. But after that, I kind of like realized what was going on. And then I was like, okay, so now to edit, I'm going to need to download something. So I got Photoshop, and I learned that when I pull my photos in there, how much work was going into it post-production. And I was doing a lot of correcting with light. Yeah. I was like, man, there's got to be some way for me to like to make this process a lot faster. And there is. It's just shooting proper photography. Yeah. And so for the first 2011, I used 2011 to really tune in to photography. And that's when I started just doing photography. I didn't shoot video. I didn't take on any other elements. I was just practicing on photography. I started with portraits, with people. And then I went to shooting kids. And then I went into shooting weddings. And then I went into shooting just all kinds of stuff, like even food photography, all this stuff. But I was learning how each one had its own category. The way things are shot, you can't just shoot one thing and then think that one rule applies to everything else. It doesn't. People are different than products. Especially kids. Oh my God, kids are crazy because kids are tough because it's not just shooting photos of them, because like people, they can pose. Kids, you have to keep their attention span, and they have a small attention span. And so when you're trying to shoot like pose stuff, it's a lot more difficult than shooting organic stuff, which is another thing I realized in 2011 when I was shooting kids. I realized that it is, versus having people come into a studio and do this, it's much easier to go into their environment. Yeah. Which is what I tell a lot of people when they're starting out. I say, you know what, to make it easier, if you're shooting portraits of kids, shoot lifestyle stuff. Take them to a park. Just get them familiar, so that way the kid feels environment like it's something normal that they're used to doing. If they're at their house, they feel like a sense of like security a little bit. And then like for me, I just did that. I started like, all right, how do we get the best frame of this kid? How do we get them smiling? And so what I would do is I would just like sit there and I would just say, all right, talk to them, you know, and I would say, what are you doing? And I would hold my camera to the side. And while they're like doing it, I'm just snapping photos.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is you. Look, this is you. And I would show the viewfinder to them. And they would be like, ah. And then like right then, right when they have that immediate like sense of connection of what you're doing and how that translates to the overall product and they see it.
Yeah.
Then they're like, okay. Some of them will be like, it immediately just taps it. They're like natural. They're like, okay. And you start to do it. And then now they're just like more natural. But other people are just like, they're not so sure what this big thing is that's in front of their face. That alone really gave me XP points in the photography game, because learning how to be so quick on the go, and to have correct exposure and to get frames, I was able to translate that later on to people as the same process. When I have models that are stiff that don't know how to shoot, and I tell them like, it's not about that. Let's just relax. First of all, girl, I'm gonna need you to do 5 jumping jacks so that way you can relax. And then she's like, you want me to do 5 jumping? He's like, you want me to do 5 jumping jacks with you? And then she's like, nah, it's okay. And I'm like, all right, do it. And then once she relaxes, I'm like, how'd that feel? And she's like, that feels a lot better.
Yeah.
Boom.
Okay, so on to the next topic.
Wait, but that's where I started. 2010.
2010.
And then 2012, I learned videography. 2013, I learned graphic design. 2015, I did all the combination, but that's where it started.
Yeah, so predominantly, what is your favorite thing to do photographs of? Is it action sports? Is it models? Is it...
I think it changes because at the time I was so engulfed in, and that's my personality. When I pick something up, I'm obsessed with it. And everyone says that, you know, other people are like, yeah, I'm obsessed with it. No, I legit am obsessed with it. Like, I will fall asleep to YouTube videos. I'm like constantly reading. I'm constantly understanding. I'm obsessed with other people's understanding the psychology of how they got a specific look at, and how do I get that look. So that changes. When I was first doing, like I said, 2011, I kept evolving to different types of styles of photography. But what I realized is I use that spark. So that spark is unique because other people get what you call artist lag. When you've done something for so long and then you no longer have a drive to do that anymore and you just feel like it's just bored. So for me, to keep that always going, I just try to push myself and to dive into something new or that I normally wouldn't do.
Yeah.
All styles of photography. And so I think that it changes. Currently, my favorite style is, I think I'm really getting into, well, it's different. Because I do product photography for my job or for clients.
Yeah.
And then I do lifestyle and stuff. I think lifestyle is my favorite because it's an overall genre. You're telling a story of how this product, or like one photo, you're telling a lot about that, like that scene.
Yeah.
And what you want, where it's at. Is it landscape? Am I shooting wide? So that's another thing that I do. When I'm shooting something, I try not to stick with one lens. I try to always rotate 2 lenses. I have a prime lens, which is usually a 50, the nifty 50 millimeter 1.8. It gives me nice depth of field. It gives me like that. And then I shoot with the 24 to 70 because that 24 can get really wide. And I can tell stories of like landscapes. I can tell stories of like big buildings. I can tell stories of mountains or whatever it is that I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
So currently, I'm really into lifestyle. Lifestyle gives me the ability to tell some interesting stories. I would say people and apparel probably is one of those things that I really like.
What do you think is more work? Do you think going out and doing a photo shoot or going out and doing a video shoot? Overall, which one's going to take longer?
Video. Because with photos, you have a couple of elements that you can work with. Well, lighting is the main thing.
Yeah.
Because video, it's extremely important if you're shooting and you want, and also depends on what you're shooting for. Like if you're shooting 4K and you're shooting these large format for like Netflix or anything like that, you're in a cinematic aspect, and now you're in a completely commercial grade environment, which means you require like 3-point lighting, 5-point lighting, different types of softboxes and grades. So just the setup time on that alone takes forever.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, you know, to shoot a scene, which is photos, you know, somebody can be in front of me and I can be like, okay, come over here, let's just shoot this. And I'm just shooting with either continuous light or a softbox or a flash, or I'm just shooting natural, which is I shoot a lot of just natural tones, which is easy. But with video, you have to worry about highlights. You have to understand shadows, because that will translate later. That's the difference between what a good video and a bad video is. That's how you compare the two, is because you can look at something and be like, oh, this looks commercial grade, and this one, this looks very amateur. And it really comes down to lighting. Lighting is extremely key on video. So it takes a lot longer for setting up just for one frame, for sure.
Yeah. There's a lot of work that comes into video. Like, I screwed up so many videos when I was first starting out. Especially like if you have the shutter speed too high for certain lighting and you go home and you're like, everything's flickering. Like, what happened? The whole video is ruined.
Yeah.
There's just so many things.
And then you have to call the client or whoever is and be like, okay, we got to reshoot this. And then like some people, they'll just like come up with some like BS, they're like, okay, so we like this frame. I said, that's another thing that I've also caught when I'm out and I hear people and I'm like watching people shoot, and they're like, oh, that looks good, but let's just do one more. I'm like, why you need to do one more? Like, I get it, but you weren't filming, you didn't get the shot, and you're just lying to convince them that you want to have it. Because sometimes, like, even if I do have a good master shot, will sometimes go for a secondary. But I will read people and I look at them. I'm like, you didn't get it. You just lied.
You forgot to press record.
Why are you lying?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Definitely when I was first starting off, I was working for Razor, and I just got the first DSLR. There was so many times I screwed up. And like one time I filmed a video in like 480, and like the video, like I had no idea, because it doesn't tell you what format you're shooting in, at least on the screen. And I didn't know how to work that thing that well. Shot an entire day, everything done, everything great video, except it was shot in like 480, and like obviously for like Razor's quality, that was just not up to par. And it's like, okay, well, always make sure you're shooting in the correct format before you actually go and like shoot the video. It's like there should be that's like a good thing for like someone beginning, is get a checklist and go through that checklist before. Know your shutter speed, know what frame rate you're shooting in. Obviously, make sure you're shooting in 1080.
Absolutely.
Or above, and like just check everything. Because you could shoot something and then you find out later, oh, this doesn't even like, it doesn't work on my computer.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like that issue you're talking about right there is a lot of amateur photographers who think, oh, I got to go shoot 4K. I got to go shoot 6K. And then they shoot that, and then they go in, and then their computer can't even process.
Yep.
And then now you stuck with this footage that is extremely crucial and important, and you can't even process it. Now they're worrying about they're like, bro, can I borrow your camera, or can I borrow your laptop?
Yeah, my camera actually warns me if I'm shooting in certain like formats that it'll say you need a high speed computer to like be able to read this stuff.
That's nice.
Yeah, and it's only in like the 4K stuff, but there's a few options where it'll warn you before you select them.
Nice. That
you might not be able to use it on all computers.
Yeah, and it's definitely important to like know your stuff before you go out there, because when shooting action sports, that right there is one of the most gnarliest things next to shooting weddings. That's extremely important, because when you're shooting somebody who's like trying to catch this clip or trying to like, get this trick, and they actually get it and you're not filming.
That's a huge thing.
Oh my God. That happens so many times, and that's annoying. And so at times it's almost better just to, that's why it's important to say verbally rolling.
Yeah, rolling.
That means you're looking at the camera, you push record, you see the little dot indicating that it's recording. Now you can say it out loud, and then
everyone knows we're good to go. Because a lot of people who are inexperienced athletes who haven't shot a lot, if they do a trick, they mess up, they'll just turn around and go again, expect you to be rolling, and it's like, yo, stop, I'm not rolling yet, we gotta
just continuously roll.
Yeah,
that's another option, is just keep the thing on and just whatever's happening until they catch the clip. Those are two options of doing it. But if you're gonna shoot clip by clip, it is extremely important to have that communication between you and the subject. Otherwise, weddings, you really can't do that. You can't be like, hold up, guys. No. You have to know. That's, like I said, the most important thing. Wedding photography is like the school of hard knocks. You got to know everything before you go into that, because you cannot mess up.
No messing up in that one.
And so like that's extremely important to know your stuff going into those two environments. I think when you're shooting action sports and when you're shooting weddings.
Yeah, yeah, and like just any live events too. There's no redos at all. Like you're only gonna cut the cake one time. You know?
Don't mind, but sometimes I'll even if I get a master take on a really cute kiss. So even like whenever they do the kiss and it's a smaller venue and it's not something, and I'll get a shot. And then I'll be like, hit him with that again. And like, sometimes they'll do it. And then they'll give another kiss. Or like, if they do something cute and I'll just say, hey, let's do it again. Or like, or I'll create an environment. But, yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, so for filming tools, that's another thing that I wanted to talk about was filming tools. Like if you're doing video, if you were to be a beginner, would you tell them to get a glide cam or would you say go get a Ronin?
Ronin?
Yeah, Ronin. Or like, what would you say? Or say just keep it nothing at all.
Well, it depends on what they're filming.
Yeah.
If they're shooting this, they don't need a Ronin, or they don't need a gimbal.
We're not talking about podcasts though. We're talking about like tramp wall, action sports, that kind of stuff.
I think a 3-axis gimbal is good to start out with, because any glide cam or anything like that is going to take some learning curves. I mean, I'm good at the glide cam. I'd say we're all good at the glide cam because that's what we grew up on. Like that's what we started with
before the Ronins.
But it took a second. Yeah. There's that. It's a feel. It's a specific feel and the artistry of like fine tuning each little knob versus a 3-axis gimbal. Now you just put it on, you do some quick stuff.
Simple.
Yeah. But what happens is people get too gimbal happy. And
everything's on a gimbal.
Everything's on a gimbal. Everything's the same type of shot, and you lose the artistry in it. And there are certain things that require just simple movements, cool. But when you're trying to, like, again, so I'm going to say this throughout the podcast of any art form is telling a story. It's extremely important. Anything that you do, an art form is telling a story. It's like something you're saying to somebody else, and they're communicating what it is that you're trying to say through a feeling or through emotion. And movement is extremely key in videography. That's and the thing is like you don't want people to notice it. You just want it to be a sense, something that you're feeling, and you don't.
You want them to feel the shot,
So gimbals really allow you to be creative if you know how to really use the, not just like going side to side, And it's really good, and it's just like if you're starting out and you have these like gigs that are coming in, and now you're wanting to make money, it allows you to do that. Later on, I think it's good to go with a glide cam because it gives you movements that you cannot mimic and you cannot get on a three-axis gimbal. So certain shots, so like oftentimes, like if you're I don't even want to do this because it's like, but there's different movements that you just can't replicate on a 3-axis gimbal that you can on.
Yeah, I would say if you're shooting something that's live and you don't know what's going to happen, like if you're shooting an event or something, a gimbal could be a terrible thing. Because like if someone just jumps out of nowhere, you're not going to be ready to, like, for one,
you're like turning and you're trying to like figure it out.
And if they move up or something, you're not ready to do that on the gimbal. Right. Like your gimbal for one is on a motor, so it's going to slowly go up depending on what mode you had it in. Right. Versus a glide cam, if you're good with a glide cam, you can just follow them wherever they need to go. And it's ready to go right then and there. So for events and stuff, I always think if you can use a glide cam, you should do a glide cam. But if you don't know how to use a glide cam, obviously a gimbal is a better option. Yeah,
to a certain degree. I know that. So anybody who's out there who wants to really like see some good glide cam work, Devin Supertramp on.
Yeah, he's good.
Yo, he really, I mean, he's got his own.
He only does gimbal or glide cam, right?
Yeah, and he's got his own. He's got his own glide cam named after him.
Yeah, Devin Supertramp is the man with the.
And you see the artistry and like the stuff that he's doing, because like I mean, he's going from high shots to like low shots to side, and that stuff you cannot do with a gimbal. Gimbal, you're like, you have to specifically like set, like you said, the mode to do things, and then you just can't get that quick on the hand stuff that he does. So definitely, if you're interested in understanding or just seeing the true mastery and
and he shoots like lots of different kinds of stuff too.
Lots of stuff,
not just one thing.
Yeah. He's definitely one of my favorite content creators that I admire.
Oh yeah, for sure. Let's see. What else do we got? I'm pretty much out of stuff.
Coronavirus.
What would be like your go-to settings if you're shooting action sports? Like minimum
Video or
like
photo?
video first.
Okay.
Yeah. Because obviously you're gonna want to shoot it in a higher frame rate possible.
Yeah. So if I know for the intention of slowing it down, and I'm shooting 120 frames per second, I usually double it.
Yeah.
So if you're shooting at 240 frames per second, or is your shutter speed, it should be 240.
If you're shooting at 120 frames per second, you need your shutter speed to be 240.
240.
Right?
If you're you're shooting your normal 60 frames per second, then it's 120. That way, when you're slowing it down, and to 30 frames per second or 24 frames per second, you have that nice like shutter flow. Like it's just like really nice. And then lighting is just different. It just depends on like if you're outdoors, if you're indoors, what you're doing. That will determine what f-stop and your ISO that's going to be. But if you are shooting action sports and you are outdoors, you're probably going to shoot at a low ISO. And then depending on what your glass is that you have, whether it's a fast glass or a slower glass. Fast glass being a lower, the f-stop. So like a prime lens, 1.2, 1.4, 1.8. Any of those are quick lenses because that's a lot of light coming in to your sensor pretty quick. Slower ones are going to be like lenses that the lowest shutter speed that you can go to is a 5.6. And usually that's a lot of kit lenses that you get normally. They're usually about 5.6. But if you're shooting outdoors, I mean, it doesn't really matter. So I shoot at a high, if I really want that nice detail, I'm shooting generally at like 7 or 11. Like f7 or 11. So even those prime, so if you're out there and you have one and you're saying my lens only goes to 5.6, well, that's okay. Because like oftentimes when you, like I just said, if you want detail and you don't want a lot of depth of field and you really want to tune in and kind of get some, like, I recommend, starting around f7 or f11, around there. Yeah. Detail.
Yeah. So let's get into some more interesting stuff.
Oh, hit me with it. Hit me with it.
How long do you think we're going to be on this quarantine for? Your prediction till everything goes back to normal, which it'll never go back to normal after this, I bet. Everyone's going to keep their distance a little bit, and people are going to be more...
How do we go from artistry back to corona? We got to be all depressed now.
I'm over talking about photography. That's enough. My brain hurts.
Oh, my God. You like
Plus, I don't know how many of my listeners are actually that into photography.
You never know. You never know. You just never know, because people could just, they're all about content creative, whether they do something in general. Like if they're putting out content, then they're going to have to know that for themselves. Yeah. So even if they're like vloggers, if they're just action sport people, or if they catch clips on GoPros, which a lot of people do, you know, just there's other elements that I guarantee you. So if you're in the comments, leave a comment. Say, hey, if this was helpful, or if you like this.
Yeah, let us know. Yeah,
seriously. I'm curious to know whether, even if you're, you know, whatever you do, just do you do content creating? Do you capture yourself? Maybe so, yeah. Just leave in the comment, but hey, you know, that's nice.
Yeah, it's always nice to see in the comments when people. Nice. It is always nice, although most of the comments are freaking rude. Like this one kid went on and just commented on all my videos like, this video sucked. I didn't learn anything from it. And
well,
like,
you said right there, this kid.
Most of my videos, I try to be informational and like teach people things. Yeah. And this kid's like...
You're just going to have those trolls, man. There's always going to be trolls. And I tell people all the time, like, that I content create for, and they say that same thing where they're just going to... You also have to separate it. You just have to know that doesn't define you. Like, one opinion is not going to, like, define who you are. And also, you could make the most crisp, perfect apple pie, but somebody's just not going to like apples. And it doesn't matter.
That's true.
You know, so that's just all there is to it. Like, and then you just have those people that are just engaging. But I'm like, to me, I tell people, like, as long as you're commenting 4 words or more, you're contributing to the algorithm. So go for it. You know, I don't care. Yeah. You know, and sometimes it just depends. Like, do I have time? Do I got time today to respond, or like, do I just like keep it going? Or because like sometimes that can really trigger the algorithm, and you can get into some nice like explore pages and stuff. Yeah.
I actually try to respond to every YouTube comment. As long as it's not dumb. Like, I usually respond to those anyways.
As long as you're not a fucking idiot.
Until my like YouTube page gets out of control where I can't respond to them.
Yeah.
If someone asks me a question, I always try to answer that.
Yeah.
Usually they're pretty legit. I think most of the trolls stay on like the younger pages, like probably like the Paul brothers. Like they probably have a younger audience, and like no one. I don't think trolls are gonna be listening to my entire podcast.
No. First of all, I'm like, how are you gonna like comment when you basically look like a chicken nugget with a hoodie? That's what I tell people. Like, I'll just go off on them. That's the thing I like doing. Is like I'll read him and then I'll just roast him, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bro, you look like a burnt oyster. Shut up. Don't even get me started, bro. I would go off on him. You know.
Damn trolls. Yeah, it's the day of TikTok where kids are just used to like short stuff, and like the internet is life now to kids. Like they just sit there.
Different generation for sure. Different generation.
Yeah. I remember back in the day, like most people wouldn't like comment rude shit. It wasn't until like 2012 or 13 or so when it really started getting to where like all the young kids who grew up with internet just around them, because it wasn't really like that for us.
Yeah.
Like the internet was kind of like, we got it like when we were like teenagers, you know? I mean, there was internet, but like it wasn't like super accessible.
Yeah, I agree. It's totally different. But, you know?
Yeah.
It's also nice to like just distance yourself from internet too.
That's true. Except for it's kind of hard when you pretty much make a living off the internet.
Yeah, but the secret is finding balance and understanding and the difference between the two. You have to have a life. If you're like completely engaged in life and if you see yourself physically reacting to something that come out of this little square, and like you need to like take a second to think, what is that? You know, like why? You know, like it's like we were talking about comments. Some people will just get so like into it, and you realize like it's just like the internet. Like it's just like that's how it is, you know. And you got to realize that like you got to breathe. Like that's your work. So like I say, if it's your work, you know, see it as that. When you're in that screen, be in that screen, but then turn it off.
Yeah.
And then, you know, turn off your notifications or hire a manager or something. Like that's what a lot of people do, you know. A lot of like really big celebrities, they don't even manage their own accounts. They have people to do it. That's why like when you ask them about them, like, they can't really, they don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, people that really get consumed in it, especially Facebook. I don't even really get on Facebook anymore because it's just so negative. It's so dark.
Yeah.
It's like Facebook is where you go to really see.
I like Facebook.
Yeah, I know you do. I check on Facebook like maybe like once every 6 months or something, and it's like, all right. But I'm like, oh yeah, I haven't missed anything. And Facebook is also basically the moms and dads of everyone who used to be on Facebook.
Yeah.
That's how I feel like. It's just the parents of everyone who used to be on Facebook now.
Yeah.
And it's like mom and dad found Facebook, and now it's like their outlet, and us at 16 all over again, extremely opinionated about nonsense.
Facebook can be very negative. There's a lot of trolls on Facebook too.
Yep.
And like I usually try to use my Facebook to be like knowledgeable and like teach people things. And when someone like so many times when people are like, oh, I'm struggling with depression and like this kind of stuff, and I don't want to get into depression, but you got to do the basic checklist of like, are you keeping your body in good shape? Are you eating good things?
Sleeping.
Mm-hmm. Like if you're not doing the basic checklist, of course you're going to have some issues. And like anxiety and all that stuff. Like if you're not just maintaining your body, you know, your body's a car. Right. If you haven't gotten an oil check in a long time, your transmission's going to start getting screwed up.
Shit's going to be nasty.
So like, yeah, a lot of times I'll comment things like, oh, like here's a diet plan. And then people will get pissed that I gave them a diet plan. They're like, I was born with this. I'm like,
people get offended over everything.
I don't know your life. I'm just trying to I know you don't eat healthy though. That's one thing.
Yeah.
Like if you're fat and out of shape, here's a basic like nutrition plan. Try following this.
Introduce some greens into your life, you know? Maybe let's not kill 3 Big Macs every day.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just saying.
Yeah.
You know?
People, I think nutrition should be a very like basic thing that everyone should have to learn. And the old model is so outdated with like the bread.
Yeah.
It's just bad.
Yeah, it's really annoying, especially when just people they get so offended at everything. Like you're like, I'm just trying to help, man.
Everyone's easily offended.
You're like, you know what? Fuck me for trying to help you. I'm just gonna go
Yeah.
kickbox a llama now or something.
Yeah. I say we wrap it up right here. We'll keep it to a mostly photography.
Wait, how long have we been on here?
podcast.
It hasn't even been that long.
It's been an hour.
Hasn't been an hour.
I'm looking at the time right now. It's almost an hour.
That's nice. We
Yeah.
went pretty quick.
Plus, we're in quarantine, so we don't got anything to do later today. Or
Yeah, we can just knock out another
do
one. Actually, we'll
another one.
probably do another one each day or
I feel
something.
like anyone who wanted to listen to anything other than photography probably turned this off already.
If you like this combo, so this is one of my best friends. I consider him like pretty much my brother. He's the reason why I moved to California and everything too. But if
and
this
then
combo,
the reason you're about to move to Vegas.
maybe, yeah, it's looking pretty tempting right now. But if you like this combo and comment some topics, let's talk about some things tomorrow or like in the next couple of times. Just put some stuff in there. Let's figure out what you guys want to talk about.
Let us know what we should talk about.
Yeah, throw some give us some good stuff. Like I want some random stuff. Like it can be anything.
I should do a Q&A.
Yeah. We should do a Q&A.
I don't know why. I don't know why I don't ask my YouTube audience for Q&As and stuff.
Let's do it. Yeah, okay, so if you guys are watching this right now, let's put some random questions out there, just like something, and then we'll just read them off this next time. Come back at you from Las Vegas, Nevada.
In Las Vegas. This is the Off Axis Podcast. This is Chris M_arts on Instagram and pretty much everywhere else. I'm Tanner Markley. Thank you guys for listening. Subscribe if you haven't. We got more videos and podcasts coming soon.
Coronavirus.
Peace.